Hi, Debu.
Hello, Linda.
I am Linda Lambert, and I'm interviewing. You know what? You're going to have to help me with how to pronounce your last name, Debu.
Debu Majumdar.
Majumba.
Majumdar. There is an R at the end, and
Okay.
every letter is pronounced
Thank
Debu Majumdar.
thank you for that clarification. Uh, he submitted Apple Blossom Time, an example of fiction, and he's going to read a little bit from that, to the Spring and All anthology. This one that was edited by Red Wheelbarrow Writers and published by Sidekick Press. He's been published by Red Wheelbarrow Writers before in their anthology published in 2018. And also that year, he won a literary fiction award from Chanticleer for his book Night Jasmine Tree. He's also written a piece of nonfiction, A Himalayan Journey, and 4 children's books, a series entitled Viku and the Elephant. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I found this on the web for a series entitled Viku and the
dear.
Elephant. Is that right? Check it out.
I don't know why Siri is entering in, but it must be because I have my phone on. So forgive the glitz, anybody who's listening. So Debu, would you read a little bit from your piece right now?
Okay. This is from near the end of the fiction I wrote. A subtle breeze reminiscent of honeysuckle pulled me toward the orchard. Or was it a fragrance of all the flowers in the world? Rose, jasmine, lily of the valley, and hyacinth. I forgot about landmines and started to walk toward the orchard. An indescribable joy filled my heart. The blossoms were a hopeful sign of a promising future.
That really is an example of the uplift that the editors were looking for. It's a very beautiful line, and I'm glad that that's the piece that you read to us. The names of your books and your own name indicate that you've likely lived in other parts of the world. Apple Blossom Time, for example, is set in Germany, and it's salted with German words. Can you tell us a little bit about your international background?
Oh, I spent 3 years in Austria, Vienna, as a member of the International Atomic Energy Commission. I was sent to represent the United States, and I spent 1 year in London also. And in this country, I have spent 10 years near in New York area, and almost 3 years in Michigan, and many years in Idaho, and now I am in Bellingham. And of course, I spent my childhood, first 23 years in India. So I have visited South American countries to learn Spanish, So I have gone around the world.
Was it your career, your vocation that caused you to learn languages and travel around?
No. It was just my own interest that caused me to learn the language. Just interest, curiosity. At one time, when I was in Austria, I could speak German. At least I could get by speaking German. And in India, of course, I know several languages, because when you grow up in India, you have to learn your mother language, you have to learn English, you have to learn Sanskrit, and you are forced to learn another language in India. So it is no big deal for us to learn another language.
And it's such a big deal for Americans to even learn another language. I took some Spanish, I took some Latin. I lived in Germany for a year, and I became somewhat conversant, enough to get around, but it's kind of gone away because it's been quite a few years. I wanted to know if I wanted to know where the story came from. that you wrote. Was there some personal background involved in your Apple Blossom story?
Yes, I will tell you why I wrote this story. First, uh, the anthology asked for something uplifting, and
Yeah.
also when I read the poem by William Carlos Williams, I got a feeling that it was World War One. He was the World War One has ended, and he was going to visit a friend in a hospital somewhere. And as he is going, he saw the spring. All the vegetations were sprouting and flowers there. So he expressed a hope that the spring is coming and the hope
Yes.
for future. Okay, and I struggled. I struggled really to write something hopeful because I see the world is whatever happening in the world is in the wrong direction. I see lots of war related things, sentiments are growing, especially in this country.
Mhm.
Ukraine war, and people don't realize that one missile dropped in a neighborhood is how devastating it is and how much suffering people are going through. So I feel really not uplifting for the coming world. So I struggled for almost 8 weeks. What am I going to write about? Uplifting. Then I remembered an incident one German friend of mine told me after World War II. That was so tragic and pathetic that I remembered in my heart. That is over 20 years ago. And he told me how in his childhood he fought with pigs to get hot potatoes
Oh my.
after World War II. And so I combined these two to write an anti-war story. My story is that war is bad and how we degrade ourselves to the level of competing with pigs for food.
I think I am so glad to hear where that story came from. And because I thought maybe it was your personal experience, but it's your recollecting on the story that your friend told you, and you have done it really beautifully. I'm also glad that you began with talking about William Carlos Williams. That, of course, is where I began and wrote the preface. But you're the first person among my interviews to have mentioned reading the poem and how that impacted you.
Yes.
And how long did it take you to write the story? Did it take a while after your 8 weeks of?
No, then it didn't take long. And also another thing I knew, the symphony number, Beethoven Symphony number 9, the chorus sometimes does not come across very good to me because it is a lot of shouting and things will come across. But the message of the chorus always remained with me that all men will become brothers.
Yes.
That's the message of the symphony choral part. And so I took that poem in my mind. That is the message. I always knew that we all become like brothers and sisters.
And you have reproduced that in German. You
I
have
did, but then the editor suggested nobody knows German, forget about it. So we kept the English translation.
Yes.
I hope they kept it.
Oh, I've read the German in my mind, and then I read the translation, and I thought it was a beautiful ending to your story.
Yes, because that is the way I think the world should go. That hope that we all can live as brothers and sisters.
I wish this were the conclusion, because that's a great ending note, but I'm sure that people will remember it wherever it is in this interview. You mentioned the Beethoven Symphony. Is music an important part of your life?
Yes, music is very important part in my life because when I write, I turn on the music, but I usually listen to classical music. Either it is Indian vocal classical, which very few people listen. People are more interested in film music, in music that expresses romance. You know what I'm saying?
Somewhat,
And
yes.
yeah, especially young. But I listen to this vocal classical music, which is very hard to appreciate, very hard because uh, they Indian side they don't express well. They do, but often it is in expressing a mood, more of expressing a mood than just music itself. And so I turned that on, and that takes me to another world of being absorbed in a classical mood. I also turned on Western classicals to listen to, and especially Mozart. I love it. It is a beautiful music. Tunes come up, and also there is one I like, which not many people know much about, is Schubert. I feel very much about Schubert, but that is a sad life he had. He died alone in his own house, and he always lived poor, Schubert. And he has eighth symphony, which he didn't finish, but that is beautiful symphony. I listened to that also.
So you not only listen and enjoy music, but you know something about the composers.
Yeah, when you know more, you enjoy more. That it touches you.
It sounds to me that you bring a student's approach to life, a student's appreciation, an investigative approach to what you're interested in.
Yeah, I always have been because, yeah, that's the way I am. I often ask the question, how am I? What am I? How did I become? Who am I? And I'm searching that. I find there are a lot of reasons for that. But maybe it is in my genes that finally I come to the why am I like this among all the people, brothers, sisters, and friends I grew up. I am somewhat a little different, I find, in a good way. I mean,
Sure. What was your family like? What was it composed of?
oh, family, we were eight brothers and sisters,
Oh, eight.
eight, and
Yes.
and my father spent his whole career in Rangoon, Burma, and then they moved to Calcutta after some travel, and we settled there. And my father's only thing was education.
Ah,
Period. Nothing but education. Nothing but. And he will do anything that we need, just if it is for education. That's all. So all my brothers and sisters, all are graduates, and we have 4 PhDs in the family. And they're all very study oriented, investigation oriented, search oriented, that kind of people.
uh, where did you get your education?
Well, I graduated from Calcutta University before coming here. Then I went to University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia for my graduate study. And then I studied at State University of New York in Stony Brook for physics.
Well,
Be-
physics.
oh, yes. And because my professor from Pennsylvania went to Stony Brook and I went with him. Then I have done postdoctoral work in Syracuse University, University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. So I have gone around
Yes, you have.
the circles.
And how many different occupations, jobs have you had?
Well, in the sense, I really have kind of 2, 3 jobs I can describe. But first, I was a theoretical physicist, just doing pencil paper work. I didn't need anything else. Then I did work on nuclear energy related. And see, in my time, there was the oil crisis came in 1973-74 oil crisis. So I
Yes.
worked for production of hydrogen, how hydrogen can be produced through nuclear energy, because hydrogen is a purely what should I say, environmentally safe, free. I mean, no carbon emission, only hydrogen and oxygen. So that was the ideal fuel. So I worked on that also. Oh, I have done different things, like I was at one time, I was pushing very much for STEM education in this country, science, technology, math education. And I worked very hard on this and with sincerity. I thought that is the reason that will uplift everybody and come out of the biases that is already in this society built in. This should be based on science. And I did that also. So I did all kinds of stuff.
I can see that, and I'm curious as to how your scientific background has influenced your writing and how you mesh those two worlds.
No, I did not. As if my brain is split into two. Completely split into two. When I go to the writing side, my emotional parts come into play. No science there. No science. But writing English is very hard for me, because English is number one foreign language. Secondly, I cannot express the emotions in English properly. That is hard, still very hard.
Well, I'm convinced that you did express emotion through your Apple Blossom Time story.
I hope so.
I think you effectively did that and made a very readable, believable story. And I liked one of the things that you concluded with, which was, let us sing more cheerful songs. And that is certainly a way to lift up our hearts, is to sing more cheerful songs. And there is another poem in this anthology. I don't know if on Apple Blossoms, I don't know if you've seen it, but Victoria Dorper wrote a poem called The Devotion of Apple Blossoms.
Oh, no, I didn't.
So we have a lot of good natural references in your story and in other aspects of spring and all. And I'm just really happy that you contributed.
Oh, thank you.
An essay, and that we now have some of your words on tape. So thank you for being with me today. Do you have any last words you'd like to add?
No, I mean, no, I mean, whatever you asked, I tried to answer,
And you did. Thank you very much, Debu. I will see you, I hope, at the launch, and good luck with other writing that you do.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for doing this for the anthology. It's, as I said before, there's really a lot of time you devote and give it to the authors who are, trying to express something.
Well, I'm new at this, and I'm sure there are some flaws in it, but I've gained a lot from hearing what authors have to say about their pieces. So thanks for participating and making this time in a schedule that's busy.
Yes.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.